This week on Rockstar Superhero. When music is fired into the center of your soul, interesting things happen. Your body becomes attuned to the vibrations and your senses are aroused and confused in equal parts. However, it can be revelatory. My guest today, Phoenix's own Media, is such a creation. Billy and Rich prove that it's not what you hear that matters so much, but what you feel. Sure, the sounds are there, the mix is right, and the tones are ferocious, but there's a meditative quality to the music that is so rare it feels vital and alive, and for that, I consider this a pretty sweet gem. Media knows how to break the walls of your temples down, one floor at a time. So join us today in spiritual triumph as the guys reveal the sounds of the netherworld. This is my interview with Media, and this, my friends, as always, is Rockstar Superhero.
I started drumming, I think, when I was 9 or 10. I played the clarinet first, and I hated it. But I was always into music. So, I picked up the drums and tortured my parents for all those years that I really sucked at them. And then, my first influence is like Metallica because of my older brother. Slayer, Pantera, Sepultura, Rage Against the Machine, 311. Those were like my early influences, but branched out a lot. And I've just been falling in love with different music ever since. And everything that you kind of hear and you allow yourself to like get inspired by, it's going to come out in you in some way. Yeah. So there's a lot.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned 311 too. I mean, that's one of those great sort of, not that they're a hidden secret sort of band, but they're a band to me that only gets their due amongst their fan base. It seems to me like they're almost like a cult band that there was a moment that they sort of stood out, in the public eye, but then, it's like once 98 was gone by, it was like, okay, we're done with 311. Right. And I think that's too bad because they're killers, man. Killers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Billy? Oh, there you are.
There we go. There I am. Early years. I don't know. I picked up guitar when I was... Actually, that's not true. I was going to say when I was 11. That was when I started playing and haven't stopped since then. But I think my folks did try to get me into it younger and it didn't stick.
Right.
I got into it. My dad showed me some Pink Floyd records and painted this image for me of like, I don't know, I don't know. It was like guitar just became this thing that I needed to be able to do at some point. And it kind of came from that. So, I started when I was 11. My early influences, it's interesting. It's totally different than what I listen to now, but Lindsey Buckingham was my first guitar hero. I think I was probably in 7th or 8th grade when they did that reunion show, The Dance. Mm-hmm. And it opened up guitar for me. I was like, wow, I didn't know you can play like that. I didn't know you could sound like that. And so, anyway, I don't know. I could bore you with a lot of details on I learned music and whatnot. Is that what you were asking, or were you?
No, just a snapshot of your life in the early days. I mean, it's fine. What you're saying is great. It is actually interesting to people. I apologize if it's not interesting to you, but I love all the bands, all the influences you guys both mentioned. As a drummer myself, it's funny because Richard had mentioned that he sort of tortured his family, and and I'm curious, I meant to ask you this, did they actually say, yes, we want you to drum, or was this one of those defiant things like, I want to be a guy who's kind of making noise and causing chaos?
I think I'm naturally just a primate. I'm not. My evolutionary process didn't go much further than that, so I just like to hit shit.
Sure.
So as soon as I picked up the drumsticks after the clarinet, I was like, okay, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And I literally played every day for hours, and I mean, it's you can't turn the knob down on the drum, so that's what I mean when I torture my parents. I would just be playing and playing and playing, and so one of them came downstairs. It was usually my dad, and he gave me the evil look that he was going to beat the crap out of me if I didn't stop. Yeah.
Well, but God bless them. I mean, they put up with it, and here you are, and that means a lot. I mean, you're a killer drummer. I've obviously listened to, the record, at least what's been made available to me. And, you guys can't be where you're at without a lot of natural skill, a lot of passion, and putting in a lot of hours. I mean, it's hard work, and, you guys have done extraordinary things with that. So, kudos to you both.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know how much time you have, but I definitely want to get pretty much straight to the record if I can.
Yeah, we have time too, so do whatever you want.
Cool. Well, everything I've read about it, and of course it's hard to discern it, but everything that I know about these records is sort of built around these ideas of sort of hiding audio frequencies inside of things, and because they create tension. And I really want to talk about that. This new record is called Influence. I believe it's 4 songs, if I'm correct. Maybe I'm wrong, but am I correct? It's 4 songs?
Technically.
Okay, technically.
So, it's like an intro and then 3 songs.
Gotcha. Okay. So 4 pieces, if you will.
Right.
But one whole sort of sonic moment, right? Wouldn't you say that's what it is? I mean, it's definitely, in a sense, it's like an audio concept record.
And it's part 1 of 3. So
wow.
Yeah.
It's we mostly for logistical reasons, we decided to just do an EP instead of the whole record, but we do have an entire record written. So we're getting a new bassist trained up on that. And, I think we're probably not too far off from being ready to hit the studio and lay down the other 2 pieces of this that we're going to put out either later this year or early next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great, I don't know if I would call it a tease, but I mean, I love it. It's really well performed. I mean, Billy, you're playing bass on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And guitar and vocals.
And vocals, right? Yeah. So, audio frequencies, they're a big part of this new record, and I've heard of sound baths. And maybe I'm on the right track, maybe I'm on the wrong, I'm not sure. But from what I can tell, this might be the road you're on. And so I would love to know, I mean, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about the secrets, if you will, hidden inside the music and why they're important and why they're there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Rich, you want me to go?
Yeah. That's your forte.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we did was we started off just tuning everything down to drop C, which we did out of convenience, just because it's an easier range for me to sing in. But so Rich started going to a Reiki practitioner at some point in, I don't know, the first year or 2 we were playing together. I'd never considered doing anything like that, but he was someone I respected, and he was telling me all this kind of mind-blowing stuff that had happened, and so I went and checked it out. One of the things that we both thought made the session really powerful was it was done on this table that had resonators on it, and she played this music that was centered around this particular frequency, 528 hertz, which I mean, there's a lot of new age kind of woo-woo about what it is, but it appears in all these different contexts. So it's used in sound healing. It appears as one of what are called the solfeggio frequencies, which I believe Gregorian chants were based around this particular scale, and 528 is right smack dab in the middle of it. The more I guess the claims that I'm a little more skeptical of is that it repairs DNA and does things like that. But anyway, it seemed like it was just an interesting concept. I'd never really thought about things in that specific as far as getting down to like what happens when you really hone in on just one like particular sine wave and emphasize it. But what I found is apparently it can have some pretty profound effects. At the base of things, it can have I feel like it can influence a non-ordinary state of consciousness. There's a lot of research about how different rhythms and different sounds were used as technology, if you will, in ancient times to facilitate these different rituals. So anyway, there's all this cool stuff about this particular frequency, and it just so happens that it's very close to a C in just standard tuning, standard orchestral tuning. And we found out that if we adjusted our concert A from 440, I think is standard, to 444, just 4 hertz up, then tuning to our C would be this 528 hertz or a harmonic thereof. Gotcha. So we're just kind of riffing on this allegedly healing frequency for this whole record, and so it's this kind of a big almost metal in some spots, but there's this undercurrent of this whole other vibe, literally.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you. I don't know if it works. I don't, and at least in regards to the DNA repair thing. Right. But I am a believer that there is some really cool sort of magical capabilities of, frequencies and overtone series and quarter tones and semitones and microtones and all these little things that are, because music is such a, I don't even know how I want to put it, but music is like the one art that absolutely affects us, right? Like, I could look at a painting and say, I like it or I don't like it just because it's either striking or it's not. But music seems to be this thing that isn't just for for listening in the sense of, I like how that sounds or how it doesn't, but it actually physically penetrates our bodies, right? Subsonic waves can kill us, for God's sake, if they're at a high enough amplitude. So, yeah, I find it insanely fascinating, and the fact that have been very upfront about it, kind of shows that at least you believe in its magic. You know what I mean? And I like that idea.
Yeah,
and your dog does too.
My dog does too, apparently.
Hey,
stop it.
Just to add to that, I mean, 3 of them. Yeah, there's new age stuff in there, and there's the woo-woo stuff that people take from it, but really, like, just in the realm of physics, it's real.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, for instance, this is magic, right? Yeah. You connected with these frequencies, and now you and us are talking because we connected on that wavelength. Yep. It is magic, and it's real.
Yeah, 200 years ago, if we could show people this, they would have killed all 3 of us for for committing witchcraft in front of everyone.
100%.
For sure, right? I mean, absolutely terrified of what we don't understand. Yeah. So I like the fact that you're breaking new ground. You're taking those tricks and doing something really cool with them. And again, like, who knows about the healing aspects of it? But yeah, the science is there regardless. Mm. And that's really cool. Well, so thanks for at least entertaining me with that. I love that.
Yeah.
Jack Endino is a pretty well-known music producer, kind of in a sense, sort of accidentally was there when Nirvana, did their big records in the late 80s, early 90s. And he did a mix with a really well-known local band called Upwell a number of years back. And they had a similar mix as far as influence. Let me say it this way. I guess what I'm getting at is when I take your record and I'm listening to the mix, I'm listening to the vocals in the mix, and they have been put in there in such a way that they're much more of an instrument versus that out front, front man sort of mix that you typically hear in modern pop records, especially because modern, pop or rock or whatever, they tend to be very loud records, where your record, the vocals are very subdued. They're definitely part of, they're like even with everything else in the mix versus standing on top. And what I like about that is it's an instrument to itself. And so you have to listen to the record in a very different way. So I guess my question is, what drove you to mix the record this way? And without being obvious, is Tool, a huge, influence on you guys? Because I feel like I hear Tool isms without it. It doesn't sound like Tool, but I hear, some of the tricks, if you will.
Yeah, they're definitely an influence. But as far as your original question, I guess when we got the first mix back, the vocals were very upfront and it sounded good, but it buried a lot of the magic that was happening in the music that really is what takes you away, right? So with some of Billy's guitar riffs and the delays, and then the little things I'm doing on the drums that I want to be heard, or just everything, and the polyrhythmic stuff that's weaving in and out. We wanted that to be heard, and we just had to turn down the vocals, and we went back and forth a lot. Billy can attest to this. It was a little bit grueling in the mixing process, but I think we did a good job of capturing the actual music, and then also having the vocals heard.
Yeah, very much. What's your thoughts, Billy? You're nodding.
That's the trick, I guess, with putting the vocals kind of even in the mix is I think it just makes the whole thing sound bigger.
Right.
It's like Rich was saying, if you have them out front, especially once everything gets mastered, you sort of lose a lot of the detail in the music. You just sort of sacrifice it to what's going to be out front. Yeah. We didn't want to do that. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny too, because as a drummer, I'm used to sitting in the back of the room, right? And I hear all that stuff in front of me. And so when I'm listening to records, I'm listening to them like I'm in the band. And I noticed that. There's all these. First of all, I listen to it in headphones because to me that's the only way to listen to a record.
Oh yeah.
And what I love is the chimes and the bell tones and the way distortion works in the record. And there's these feelings. I can't really necessarily explain it with my words, but. In my mind, there's these beautiful collisions of things that happen, and so it reminds me, almost like if David Lynch were to do a recording that he would approach music this way, because it's almost like he's saying, or you're saying, I should say, let's see what happens if, versus just making a song, verse, chorus, bridge out, you know what I mean? But there's actually, it's almost like you're listening to experimentation in process. And I love it so much. And I don't know if I'm on the right track, but is that kind of what you were going for?
I don't think we were necessarily going for it. I think that's just how it happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you totally nailed it. Yeah, David Lynch films are our only actual influence on how we write music. I do.
I'm not sure if I've offended you or not.
No, I'm kidding. I love your Twin Peaks curtains. It's interesting. I mean, a lot of the way that we write is experimentation. Like, we'll have riff A and riff B, and they have a similar vibe, but they're not in the same time signature.
Right.
What the hell do they sound like if we go like this? And then,
right.
Okay. What's it going to take to make those come back together at some point? And it's that kind of thinking that I would say is even more prevalent in the second batch of songs that we'll be putting out. But
gotcha.
Yeah, it's very iterative, if you will.
And it's grueling. Like, literally, we'll spend freaking 5 practices on like 10 seconds that we're just not getting. There's something missing, and then one of us, I don't know, we'll text each other like late at night, like, oh shit, I think I got an idea for that. Or we really put a lot of work into it, and we put a lot of work in a way where it's like, okay, this feels like this would go here, fine, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something that is kind of a little different here. Mm-hmm. It's not like what everybody else would play. It's like, it's something that we would play in media. Like, even when we're writing our new stuff, we're like, okay, we're jamming. We're like, but is this media? It's like, we have to do something different to this.
It's so frustrating, but yeah, we haven't settled on anything. so it's God, it takes time. I feel like it's worth it though. I mean, otherwise it's like, what are we doing here?
No, I mean, absolutely. I recognize the pain of trying to put something unique together too. It's funny because, Rich, when you were talking about, like texting each other at 2 a.m, to me, I know this is going to sound super geeky, but like, if you guys have ever played video games, I don't know, I'm not a big gamer, right? But when I was younger, I played a lot of role-playing games, RPGs, like, Zelda and Final Fantasy and stuff like that. And to me, the pleasure of those games were figuring out the puzzles. It wasn't about the battles. I could care less about that. I wanted to figure out how to get through a dungeon that was extraordinarily difficult. And oftentimes I would be up until 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd go to bed, and then I'd lay in bed, and then all of a sudden at 4 a.m. I'd wake up and go, holy crap, I know how to do it. And I would literally get back up and do it. And so I recognize that sort of insanity that goes with having to break the puzzle apart so you can figure out how to express it in a way that only you can express it, So I totally appreciate that. So thanks for sharing,
Yeah. And it's cool because usually, like, we're brutally honest with each other when we're writing. Like, we'll be like, no, that sucks. Or, we'll hurt each other's feelings. But when we know what's right is right, it's just like, yep, this is it. It's like that, like you said, the puzzle piece.
Yeah.
That fits. And yeah, it's definitely worth it.
We've had one song that we've had for years now, and the ending has just never been quite right. It's not quite. It's like it's okay. It's not quite right. And we've been, I don't know. I feel like we've been just chipping away at this thing with fucking chisel for the whole time trying to figure out what goes there. And it's like just last week, after all this time, like three bassists later, it's like we're jamming, and it's like, oh, that's what we do there. And so sometimes it takes quite a while.
Yeah. You know, I want to get back to the record in a second, but I have to ask you a question about this, and I hope this isn't going to step on toes. And it's not meant to throw anybody under the bus. What do you think? Like in an ideal world, what are you seeking in a bass player? Like, what's the missing component that says, like, this is the right person, or this is the right sound, or, you know, are you looking for a collaborator? Or are you looking for a person, in a sense, to come in like a session musician and be a part of it, but sort of after the fact, you know, because I don't know, it's tough to be in a band, man, when you're married to more than one person in a way, right? And and I think, you know, when I listen to music like you guys, you know, you're a duo. I mean, you're performing the work of a quartet, but you are a duo. How are you gonna sort of get through that, you know? Do you mind if I ask that question?
Well, number one, the bass player has to be extremely sexy.
Oh, okay. That's very important. Red hair as well, or, you know, Roman Catholic?
No. We can't have anyone with red hair. That's
that's bad juju. No,
it's too niche of a market.
Oh, okay. Too many recessive genes.
I mean, to me, you know, being in the rhythm section, the bass player just we have to mesh well, and then also think outside the box, because I think that's what Billy and I, that's how we write. So the writing process is very important. So the bass player just needs to be able to think outside the box. If it doesn't need bass, if it needs atmosphere sounds, if it needs some sick ass, like maybe EDM freaking syncopated bass line, if it needs no bass and maybe just synth there. Maybe the bass player can pick up the synth. Like, no boundaries, just whatever the piece needs, think outside the box. That's what I think. So Billy.
Billy's dog has an opinion.
My
That's awesome. This is life, man.
You're about to get.
Did we lose Billy?
No, you're about to get introduced to the world, whether you like it or not. What the hell are we talking about?
What do you want a bass player, man?
What the hell do you want a bass player, dude?
Well, we got a guy.
Oh, great.
It just it didn't happen in time for this EP. That was why I had my background blurred originally, so it was low pressure for him back there.
Sure.
But I think I'll just there. All me now. We talked a lot about it. We have a tone that we want. We have a style that we want. We need someone that can play well with Rich's drumming, and someone who plays bass like a bass player, not like a guitar player. And you asked if we wanted a collaborator, for sure. That was like, that's the biggest thing. There are plenty of people who can play, but are there, how many people are there who can play, but are going to be into what we're doing as much as we are, and who can mesh? And I'm actually pretty excited to start writing with this guy, but we've just been getting trained up on the rest of the existing stuff.
Yeah. No, that's good news, because obviously you've created this first thing, and you like I said before, you played the bass on it, which is great. It sounds like a great bass player, you know what I mean? But it will be nice to hear and see what comes of a fully formed trio, especially because of it seems like the direction you guys are going is very spiritual, right? There's this there's this, the album is built around this meditation, right? And I had read that you have this idea called the sixth mass extinction event, I think, if I remember it correctly. Am I on the right track?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys called it an idea pathogen. It's like that. Say that 5 times fast. But when I read that, my brain said, "Oh, this has to do with," and I'm probably wrong, social media or religion or something that, where the ideas are out of control, right? Where people are being ruled by ideas and that fear that ruling creates. So people in power can remain in power. And I'm probably not even right on the wavelength, but when I read those words, that's what I was thinking. So I guess what I had to ask is, what are you trying to say with this sixth mass extinction event idea?
You mind if I take it, Billy?
Go right ahead.
So yeah, it's anything you want it to be, right? Okay. You interpret it however you want it. So Carl Jung said that the greatest threat to humanity was mass psychosis. Mm-hmm. And so there's been 5 mass extinctions on our planet that we know of. And so we need it, and these 6 because this idea pathogen that has a life of its own is inflating and infecting people's egos, not their true self, their egos, and it spreads. The ego is very aggressive, and it spreads about, and people lose their humanity, they lose their compassion, they lose their unity, and that causes the mass extinction, because ultimately that leads to violence and war. That's my take on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and it's also sung from the idea pathogen's perspective.
Wow, that's intriguing. I like the idea that you've taken that. Now, talk about outside the box. That's quite literally, you've made the pathogen a character, right?
Yeah, right.
It got quiet.
Yeah.
Right? Billy popped back on, so I'd love to know, Billy.
Well, it reminded me, this sort of came after the fact, but Rich, I don't know if it was on your mind when you were thinking of this song concept, but so he sent me these declassified CIA documents from, when were they doing this? Was this, what time period was it?
70s and 80s, I believe.
Okay, so it was, there are all kinds of documentaries of varying quality on this, but it's about the idea of using astral projection and remote viewing to spy on our enemies. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh wow, you discovered something really remarkable that human consciousness could do. How can we use this against Russia?
Right.
And then vice versa.
Right. Yeah. But there was this line in there. There was this line in these documents that it talked about all the people forming a network to repulse unwanted non-corporeal entities or something while going through this. So it's like, I don't know. There's some weird shit out there.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
And we like to make music about it. So
yeah.
And we actually wound up using that document in the album artwork.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a latent background behind everything.
Very cool. Rich, you had something else?
No.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if this was the code.
No, I was just scratching my head.
Okay. It's funny because you guys you brought up Carl Jung a second ago, and it reminds me of Peter Gabriel's Rhythm of the Heat, that off of Security, the first track. And, that song is about Carl Jung's experiences with the tribe. He was sort of embedded with this tribe, and they took, I don't know, ayahuasca or whatever their local version of that is. and they did the whole called on spirits thing. It was so like, depending on your perspective, it was enlightenment or demonic, right? But the point is that there was this sort of intense spiritual experience that he felt out of control, that he couldn't control the situation, and he couldn't control himself within the situation. And it makes me think that when I take that idea and then I take what you're talking about, I guess what I'm saying is people are willing to die for ideas. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering, is that something? I don't even know where I'm going with this. but do you know what I mean? Like, people are willing to die. I mean, they're willing to write crazy shit on Twitter, and then they're willing to go kill somebody for it, right? And that's just politics or whatever's going on there. But this idea of these sort of mass events, like you said, they've been going on for years and years and years. And I see that, and I wonder, like, how are we going to make it through, right? There's no question here, but I just don't know how we're gonna make it through if we're so prone to accepting crazy shit. I don't know
either. Yeah, I don't know either.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for jabbering so much, but
no, you're fine.
It makes me think more than it does give me a question, and I guess maybe that's the point. Maybe this this first EP, its sole purpose is to get us to consider other ideas, other sounds, other perspectives, other boxes. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what draws me.
Well, I'm glad you like it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I really do. Okay, so I mentioned crazy a second ago. Musicians tend to be crazy. I like to ask this question pretty much every show. So musicians, we tend to be a little bit bonkers. We're a little bit out of control a lot of the time. So all that being said, do you guys have a self-destructive habit that you've had to sort of overcome as a musician, as a creative?
How dare you?
I just love offending Billy today.
Never in my life have I.
Have I ever been so offended? What are you, Clark Gable's younger sister right now?
I'm not sure I know anyone who's escaped that on some level or another. I'm certainly not immune from it myself.
Right.
Yeah. Music's part of getting better.
Yeah, for sure. Is music healing for you, Rich?
Oh yeah. I mean, music is everything to me. I mean, half the time I'm walking around throughout the day, I have music in my head, whether it's something new that's just coming to my head or it's a rhythm I heard the other night, like anything. But especially during the writing process, that's my favorite part, the creative writing process. And like, once something's locked in, like that's where I get my emotional release. Is like, some of the time I'm not even there beyond the drum kit thinking about what I'm doing. I'm like actually thinking about something I need to get out, or what like this hit like means this to me.
Right.
Yeah, cause like the way I write is I don't really go off the cuff. Like if I write something, I know when I'm hitting a cymbal at a certain part. I know when I'm hitting almost every note for the songs we write. I don't like changing up too much because I decided on this, and that's just my stuff. But like those notes mean something to me. Yeah.
Gotcha. it's interesting that you said that, and I'm glad you did. One of my favorite questions to ask is really around the world building in song, you know, and it's interesting to find what is what's the driving force behind songwriting, because some musicians love the lyrical content, they love the actual verbal story, right? Like they like to tell the story, and they want to see how people respond to that actual story, right? And most of the time, I think it's because most musicians aren't necessarily interested in letting us figure it out for ourselves. They want to tell us how to think, and you guys have stated it's the opposite. So if I were to ask, what do you like more? What's the most important aspect of songwriting? Is it the sonics? Is it the world building in the sonics of the record? Or is it, you know, the lyrical storytelling?
Bill, you go.
Pass.
No, you go.
Okay. No, you hang up.
Do I have to edit this part?
You hang up, Billy. No.
Oh, that's hilarious.
No. So, not the. I think just the sonic, the whole sonic experience. I like building a story. I like when composers in classical music, like they'll say, this part means this. This whole violin thing right here means that this person's has walked through a forest of enlightenment. And when they reach the other side and the trumpets come in, that's when, you know, enlightenment reached them. Like, and that's what a lot of composers have, this whole story in their head. And that's my favorite part. Like, I like to assign meanings to different sounds and kind of paint a story sonically, like that. Like, I like meaning. And I know, like, maybe it's annoying to Billy sometimes, but like, I like just meaning and intention. And then once we have that, and then he puts the lyrics to it or the melodies to it, and we go over the lyrics and melodies and what fits and what doesn't. Like, it usually fits well in the bigger picture.
Yeah. Well, and it also goes to show too that your collaboration actually matters, right? Because you, in a sense, are on the same page without necessarily being told by either of the other how to think about this particular passage. And I think that's really potent. It shows you match well, you know?
Yeah, we definitely match well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a piece of shit, but I love him.
With really loud dogs. Here he comes.
Turn that mic on. All right. So you answer the question, Billy. What are your thoughts on that?
What was the question? Sorry, there's.
You know, what do you like about the songwriting process? Is it the lyrical creations, or is it the sonic? You know, is it the soundscape?
I mean, it has to be both. There's nothing that ruins good song quicker than shitty lyrics. I mean, I've written my share of them. Yeah, I don't know. It's always been the music first, and then usually the vocals second.
Gotcha.
Every now and then there will be a phrase that existed independently of a song that makes its way in, but mostly it's all right. We have this whole thing going with the band. You know, how do we take that a step further? How do we add a perspective into this? Right.
Yeah.
Tricky question to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to be.
Though.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Very good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I like your questions.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'll pat myself on the back for that, but you know, being a drummer myself, I've had for years. I mean, it happens to me every day. Somebody says to me, "What do you think of that song?" And I'm like, And they're like, "What do you mean, I mean, what a story?" And I'm like, I didn't listen to the story at all. I'm listening to the arrangement. Like I'm listening as a drummer. I'm always listening to the bass and the drums and the guitar. It's just the way it works for me. And maybe the 50th time I've heard the song, I might actually notice the chorus. You know what I mean? As far as like the lyrical content, I'm really not listening to the story. I'm pretty much not interested because I'm listening with my eyes and, my spiritual eyes, what's going on in the song. It's kind of what you mentioned earlier. Like what does that clarinet mean? What does the trumpet mean? What is the synthesizer trying to tell me? Right? I'm creating my own interpretation of it based on that. And that's probably what draws me to your work so clearly is that, again, the vocals being set down in the mix makes it more like another melody versus a storyteller. And I totally dig that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I just want to give kudos to Billy. Like, some of those melodies I had never expected over some of these parts of our music. I was like, damn, bravo. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a good job with the lyrics and the melodies.
So cool. If I may, I'd like to ask one more question to you guys tonight. What do you think sets media apart from the work you've done in the past? I mean, I don't know much about your previous history. I am familiar with Oxford Coma. But really only slightly, I admit. So, past that, I don't necessarily know how much work you guys have done together previously or even separately. So, I guess, the question is, what makes media different for you and where do you hope it goes?
Well, it's better. Oxford Coma was my old band.
Right.
Which,
I love the name. It's a great name for a band.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Media's there's been a lot of growth since then. I don't know. Media's a bit more interesting of a project, I think, because I've never. I worked with a lot of good musicians in that other band, but I never had a creative partner prior to playing with Rich.
Perfect answer.
So it was so it's different. We do annoy the shit out of each other, but I think at least musically, I know we bring out the best in each other. Because I would say if you looked at both of our previous musical projects, I don't know. I'm not sure you would put them together and think they'd add up to what we've got. But,
right.
But yeah, there's something special there.
Yeah. I think the band. I mean, it's worthy of being remembered, man. And that honestly, in this day and age, with such a diverse, right? I mean, there's way too much, as you know. You go onto YouTube or Spotify or whatever. I mean, we're all going to be lost. There's way too much content, which I mean is kind of good for somebody who can say, "Hey, look, I put out a record." But there's a lot of people that shouldn't be putting out records, And I don't mean that arrogantly or trying to offend anyone. It's just like I don't know. It's the American Idol syndrome. Everybody thinks they're talented, and I'm sorry, but a lot of people aren't. And go be a cook, dude. But sorry, I'm a dick. But
no,
you guys. Yeah, you guys are really fantastic, and I really hope something, you really stick the landing. I can't wait to hear what's coming with the next two cycles because the first 4 songs are 3 plus the intro are badass and have the ability to really go the distance, man. I mean, I guess I can't praise it enough, but I'm just really grateful you guys are here and a part of this tonight, and just sharing this new record with me is really great, and I hope it really takes off for you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
To it.